From Team Crimson here, and today we are doing another Crimson debate. Today's topic is power creep in Standard. Has it been getting out of control, and is it even sustainable? So today we are joined by Zach, and we are also joined today with Dekin. Today is just going to be talking about that topic. Power creep is normal. That is definitely normal in all card games. We've seen it with Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot of us are familiar, and with Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff. You've seen it in Magic. You've seen it in Pokemon. You see it in all sorts of games. And this is not the only time that power creep has been a thing in Vanguard. We've just constantly been seeing that. So it's not new. It's not abnormal. So let's get that straight. And it's nothing to freak out about. However, I will say that we have been seeing, especially since the start of Standard, we've most of the stuff that came out kind of right off the bat was around the same power level. I mean, clearly, like with set 1, OTT and Kagero were better in that Q4 set and stuff like that. But even then, the first couple of sets that came out after that were along the same power lines. And then normally what you would see is a slight increase. But we saw a slight increase and then a huge increase and then huger increases from here and here. Almost to G level standards, where every set was almost outperforming the last set. But I wanted to bring that up, and I wanted to see what your guys' thought was on that. The level of power creep that we're seeing, is it sustainable? Is it something that the game can even keep up with? Or is it going to cause irrevocable damage to the game? Dekin, what are your thoughts?
Well, seeing how when the game first started, there was one significant gift type that was the best, and that was obviously Protect. And that seemed to be the decks that got the best support, in quotes, because sometimes it wasn't the best. It's just because Protect, the free PG. But
an inherent +1 kind of, whereas the other don't have too much of that.
Yeah. And then we started seeing that they realized their mistake, that only one clan was getting dominant, one gift type was getting dominant, and they're like, okay, we're gonna push Excel up a little bit because it has gotten the shaft, and we have seen for the longest time up until some of the recent, I think it was since one of the Zanbaku sets and Bermuda's time up until roughly now, we're seeing that Excel has been the most dominant gift type from power creep levels. And now it's looking like they're trying to give Force that power creep level too. But there's obviously still Narukami and Aquaforce that are still staying relevant. So I guess my thought on it is, if they keep going the same way they are going, where they're trying to make one gift type at a time the relevant gift type to play, that the game will have severe problems. I think they need to find a way to somewhat balance out where it doesn't matter what gift type you're playing. You can still compete with one another, but there's obviously going to be some decks that are just better because of the support that they have or the mechanic that they have. So I don't know. I'm on the line and very hesitant with if they need to keep power creeping the game and keep going to certain levels with stuff.
Zach, what are your thoughts?
Well, ever since Standard has begun, a lot of people's main problem with the game, trigger value. That is important. Why is it so high? The game in general, it seems to be, when it first started, it almost seemed to be whoever trigger sacked the most would win. And obviously, again, like you guys were talking about, inherently some clans and some gift types were just better, but if you trigger sacked more, then you would probably win. They would shift in your position. Then we come across to the Excel time, we'll call it like the Excel era or whatever, where Excel clans got like all the support. They were just insanely busted. Almost nothing other than Excel could compete, which then forced the game to shift again into this fourth meta that we're now seeing. But if they continue upon this tread that they're going, where they keep shifting into the different gift types, I don't know how they would keep up with the power levels that they're coming. Even right now, we're seeing 70k grade 5s, with 5 drive checks. How can they?
And that's not necessarily meta.
No, it's not necessarily meta, but you see what I'm saying is like that is so much power output, and so it's insane that what we're in from where we started. I would say if they keep going the way they are, that it probably will cause irreparable damage to the game in general. I hope they don't have to do another reboot, because honestly, sometimes I don't know.
You're getting ahead of us, but
all right. Sorry.
We'll talk about that in a second. But okay, so what I also wanted to say with that is, we started to see Standard, for the most part, be somewhat balanced. There was obviously some decks that were better than others. That's a given. However, when did the problem with the meta as a whole? You don't necessarily have to go along with gift types. I know we're talking that we kind of got into that a little bit. That's not necessarily what we're going along with. We're just talking about power creep as a whole. Where do we see that line of power creep just jump up from here to all of a sudden it's right here, instead of like a little like you go from one set and now all of a sudden this set comes out and it's clearly just a little bit better. Instead, you're going from this set came out to all of a sudden this set comes out and it's way up here. In my opinion, and again, tell me if you think I'm wrong, or tell me if you think it was a different set or whatever. In my opinion, the power creep level jumped significantly with Aerial Steed Liberation. Aerial Steed Liberation was the set that introduced Gancelot, made Blaster Blade become a Vanguard, gave Blaster Blade plus power, all this type of stuff. Magus wasn't, clearly didn't have as significant of an impact on the meta or anything like that. Jamyo Congo, I believe, was in that set as well. I'm not sure. I could be mistaken, but that didn't do anything too much for Standard, but it did do something for Premium. And then the most significant one from that entire set was Gauntlet Buster. Gauntlet Buster absolutely wreaked havoc on Standard meta for quite some time. And then, to me, I feel like they went Aerial Steed was all of a sudden a significant jump up. And then you had Aerial Steed, and then right next was Phantasmal, which was just a tick up. You had Mordred. You had Lukier, I believe. You had, was it Hyuga in that set?
Yeah, Hyuga.
So you had Hyuga. And then not too much after that, you had the first Shin set. I can't remember its name, but that's all of a sudden introducing a grade 5 that's 70k power with stacked force markers on your Vanguard circle. You had God Hand, which can create 70 100k columns. You have what was the other cards? What was the other cards that came?
There was Ergodial, which did absolutely nothing. And
yeah,
then
So,
but
you had stuff like that, and I feel like it started with Aerial Steed Liberation. But Deacon, you were making it sound like you almost thought it started a little bit earlier. Give me your thoughts.
In my opinion, I think when they started with Standard, they were at a very good spot, but they were releasing and Protect was obviously the better in quotes deck as a free plus free shield, and like force decks were almost always shut down, which did kind of give a triangle effect. But I think it started with, if I'm not mistaken, it was Beast Deities that had come out, and then immediately after that they came out with Glory, and then immediately after that came up with Zangeki, which had the Shiryuki, and then following that, yes, I do agree, Aerial Steed and Phantasma. From there on, it's been rough. But I do think that they introduced an insane power creep level, and it's not me hating on Novas. I know that's what I'm infamous for on this channel.
Right.
It's just the pure power that Novas had for so many sets after they got their Beast Deity support that they could compete with Bermuda a bit. And then on top of it, Glory came out, making you being able to guard with only one card while being able to swing at you with at least 20 some odd numbers. And then Zangeki with Shiryuki negging 3 of your opponent's cards. And then I think that's where, in my opinion at least, we started to see Standard get obvious power creep.
You're saying is Light of Salvation, Logic of Destruction set, and Heroic Evolution sort of set. Around that time is when you think that that power creep started to elevate.
Ever so slightly with a few decks, I think. There was a lot of other decks were roughly around this middle ground, but then there was a few decks that just got a significant boost that was absolutely ridiculously crazy. Like, and I do agree with you that Aerial Steed is when it started to be a very noticeable set after set. It was kind of that set that solidified in the meta. But that, in my opinion, is where I think they started to power creep out. That was a little bit too crazy.
So Light of Destruction or Heroic Evolution, just to clarify.
Yes, just
either or. Or is there a specific
second one where they released the full Beast Deity deck, where it was absolutely ridiculous.
Yes. Okay. So Heroic Evolution.
That's where I have to somewhat agree. But correct me if I'm wrong. Which set came first? Was it the Bermuda set, or was it the Heroic Evolution set?
Bermuda. Bermuda came before. Bermuda actually came before Logic of Salvation set as well. It was Bermuda, then Logic Salvation with Azure and Messianic Lord Blaster and Overlord the Great and all that stuff, and then Heroic Evolution. And Heroic Evolution also, I will say, Heroic Evolution did introduce Gift Type 2.
Right. Yes. So I think, if I'm being honest, I want to say the Heroic Evolution is where it all started, in my opinion. Because Bermuda was a problem when it came out, yes. But they could have fixed it, and then Light of Destruction, or Light of Salvation, Logic of Destruction came out, and they were all, they were in between. There was Azure and Overlord, which were butting heads a little bit. And then as soon as the next set dropped,
Overlord the Great, as far as the meta was concerned, it was Bermuda by a clear margin.
Right.
Then right next to it was the Great.
Right. Okay.
Great
All right.
to compete with Bermuda, but just it didn't stand as much of a chance as Bermuda still, but it could compete.
And then, yeah, I mean, and Azure was there. He was involved a little bit. He wasn't nearly as close as those. But then literally, Heroic Evolution dropped, Gift Type 2 dropped, and Illuminal Beast Deity was number 2 in the meta, and it was just all out of whack. And then the next set, like Deacon said, with Glory Maelstrom, where they could do the one card guard and then create their own numbers. That was when it started getting ridiculous, though. I have to say, I do believe it was Heroic Evolution. Even if it was just one type of one clan that really got the obvious large amount of support, or maybe like Joker was a little bit involved too, but there was definitely a problem as soon as that set dropped.
Okay. All right. And then the other thing I wanted to address too was we're seeing with the new set coming out that is called Silver Dust Blaze, I believe is the English naming of it. That's a set with Link Joker, with Kagero, with Oracle Think Tank, D-Police. I believe that's it.
Yes,
but so we've already seen a couple of VRs from that. Do you think, and I'll explain a little bit, but do you think that Silver Dust Blaze, that this set is trying to correct that course? And what I mean by that is we've seen, at least from everything that we've seen so far, we've seen OTT's card, I forgot his name, Susanoo, yeah. Susanoo, we're seeing with him, we're seeing with Alter Ego Messiah, we've seen already with Blade Master Soen. These are very relatively good cards. They're not bad by any means, and they will by all means be, or at least from what we know right now, they look like they're going to be competitive. And they're all very much right within that same margin there. Whereas with the previous set, with I believe it was the Next Stage set. The Next Stage set, you had Next Stage clearly for Gear Chronicle. You had Asha for Neo Nectar, and you had Royal Paladins. You had Altmile. There was one that was significantly above the other two, and that was Altmile. Altmile is just leaps and bounds better than the other out of the three clans. Next, I'd probably say it was it would be Gears, but it's not very close there. Altmile is just significantly better. But then we saw with the MLB set, the very next, it's just a trial. It's just a trial deck or whatever it's called. It's a special set. But we're seeing with that, it's almost not even worth playing Altmile anymore. MLB looks like it's going to be absolutely ridiculous. And then along these lines is some of this stuff looks to be along that power level. It's going off right away. Everything's just super, super good, super solid. Is this their form of trying to correct that by making everything around that same power set again? Deacon?
In my opinion, I do think they are trying to, and ever since they released the trial decks with the G era reboot type stuff, I think they realized their mistake and they're like, we need to try to correct this because we're going to be losing players if we make it where this set comes out, you can only play these decks and Excel is their dominant one. You want to play that to be able to compete. I do think that, yes, obviously Altmile is the better one out of the three. I attribute that partially to Neo Nectar having had ridiculous support and Gear Chronicles getting super good support. But at the same time, it's not really fair that the one out of the three is the better one. So I think with the next set, with there being the 5 VRs and everything, they are trying to balance it out a bit. I think they're trying to course correct. It's just a matter of how good the course correction is going to be, because maybe some of these older decks are just going to be leaps and bounds better still once they get their new support.
Or they could go the even worse way and introduce the D-Place unit and Dragonic Overload the Cross and make those ridiculous and leaps and bounds above what we've already seen. But yeah, Zach, what do you think?
Well, in my opinion, I think they are trying to correct it. Honestly, because notice, especially with this particular set, that the one that you brought up, the whatever the English name is, I forgot, the silver pet. Notice how a lot of the skills that they revealed for 2 of the cards so far, Soen, and then I'm not flipping anybody off. Okay, so notice how there's skills from the VRs that are actually quite similar to older versions of those cards. Alter Ego is very, very similar to Harmonix Messiah, except it takes away a little bit of restriction. So it doesn't skyrocket, in my opinion. It doesn't skyrocket that much. It allows more consistent plays. It doesn't introduce a new crazy skill that we've never seen before. It just allows it to go off a little sooner, more consistency. It's very similar. Same thing with Soen. It's very similar how it plays, how it looks, how the board setup has to be for its skill to go off. So it's nothing that we haven't really seen before. It's just a little bit of extra freedom. So in a way, I feel like because some of those clans had restrictions to, your opponent has to be grade 3 or whatever, or grade 3 in soul. If both sides are not able to go off the way Excel could go off right off the bat, then maybe that'll help a little bit with the format as a whole. As long as they're not introducing wacky, crazy new skills, then maybe this set will start that new trend of clans playing very similarly to older cards, just with less, I guess roadblocks is the way I'd say it. But that's just how I see it.
Okay, and then the very final part of this conversation is, again, with if this isn't a course correction, that we're talking about here with the Silver Display set, if this isn't a course correction, we see that power creep still continues to escalate. Do you see a relaunch in the future? The other added part that I'd like to add a bit to this is that we are as of right now, we are approaching the middle of 2020. And by the beginning of 2021, that will mark a 3-year span for a V series. Most of these series seem to go for about 3 years. So will we see, and again, bringing into the account that the power levels that are coming up with some of these cards, are we going to see a relaunch of the game? Whether that be an actual, we're taking everything that is standard and moving it over to premium, and we're going to do a whole actual relaunch thing again. Or they actually come up with a new mechanic and everything that somehow replaces gifts or whatever. But that doesn't necessarily, it would have to actually power creep out what is existing right now, while also trying to bring down some of the power levels or whatever of the game as well. It'd be quite difficult, but what do you see in the future? Do you see that relaunch could be possible? Do you see them just coming out with a different mechanic, like going from, Limit Break and Break Ride to Legion? Do you see something like that? But let's get your thoughts. Dekin, what do you think?
I think, personally, a lot of you might disagree with me, but I think that if this set doesn't balance out, I think it will be mandatory that they reboot the entire game completely. if it does balance out in a way, I think they can introduce a new mechanic that could get rid of gifts completely. That would be my preferred route, because I would like every deck to not have specific things that they can do. Like Stealth has the draw ability, Protect has a free PG, and Force sit there and damage deny you for days. So like every clan, every gift type has their specific things they can do. I would like it if not there wasn't specific gift types, more just every deck has a similar mechanic. They use it differently. That's what I would like to see. But if this set does balance out, and the restriction or errating of gifts is not needed, then I think they'll just continue on. If they balance it out, and they'll continue on until they run into problems where they inevitably have to reboot or add a new mechanic.
So you're saying you would prefer almost that they get rid of all gifts together, come out with decks, and maybe a return of like key terms, like Time Leap for Gear Chronicle, and Rush for Nova Grappler, and Brave for Royal Paladin, stuff like that. Whereas not necessarily actually like that, but we're just saying something that is actually exclusive towards that deck type.
Yes, I would prefer that, whilst still being able to utilize the standard cards that are out, like just an errata of types, allowing you to still use the standard support that's out, but it's a new mechanic all together. Gift types are no longer a thing.
That would be very, very difficult. But Zach,
Yeah.
What do you think?
Okay. So I believe that this is V Series being, as a reboot. I'm not exactly, I wouldn't say I'm happy about the reboot, because the way that the game was way back in the day, and this is why I'm thinking first season, second season, up to around third season, the game actually overall took a lot of thought. There was a lot of critical moments in the game where you had to make a decision, had to make a very specific play in order to actually win games. I remember Damage Deny back in the day. Some clans could do it just because, obviously, like, they were better at it. But I know that there was also times where I would have to play with, say, I was playing a weaker deck, and my strategy was to stop you from having counterblasts. Basically what I'm trying to get at is that I remember a time where the game actually required a lot more thought than it does now. Whereas the game that we're seeing right now, it's busted skill, busted skill, busted skill, all hitting you right now. And then you only last up to, if both players are having a good game, probably up to 2 grade 3 turns. And games are shorter, games are more intense, games are more frustrating. Me personally, my opinion is that I do believe that if they continue, they will probably have to do another reboot. I think that they got out of control, and there's only so much that they can do to try to damage control the whole situation. I don't think taking away gifts and replacing it with a new kind of mechanic for whatever would change anything. I do like how we've seen solidified skills per clan. Like now, back in the day, Narukami used to be retire, same thing with Kagero. Now Narukami is bind, Kagero is retire. Kagero is also mainly restanding Vanguard with some small retire abilities. And Narukami is just bind, and then go for the kill. I do like where they went with V-Series with skills. I don't like where they went with power increase. So I almost hope that they do a reboot, because in a way, I can't really think of a way for them to stop it without going higher and further and making the game unplayable. And that's probably what I fear the most, because I do love this game. but Bushiroad sometimes I feel like doesn't think. So, me personally, my ultimate opinion, I actually do think that they'll probably do another reboot. But maybe they'll pull something out of their ass. We'll see.
All right. I think that's it from us, guys. Regarding this topic, premium and standard power creep and stuff like that, or standard power creep getting out of control. And we'd like to hear from you guys, though. We'd like to hear from you guys. Let us know in the comment section what your thoughts are on power creep as a whole. Do you think it's actually fine? Do you think that they are maybe trying to restore it with this set, or maybe that you think that they tried to restore it earlier? Just let us know your thoughts. I'd like to again thank Zach for being here, thank Dekin for being here for this Crimson debate, and we will see you next time with another debate and another topic.